Right. So I did like a little bit more research and found out the types of anger that are available as well. Simply because I didn't think there was going to be enough to talk about just the positive of why anger is good. So think of this as more of a bonus round, if anything else. So from what I found, there are 8 types of anger that I've found, and I'll go through all of them. So I'll give you the definition of each type, and then we'll just talk a little bit about them of what I've seen about them. So first one's passive. This is where a person is more avoidant and would be the most irritating to those around them. It can show an individual's unhealthy relationship with this emotion. They may believe that it's inherently wrong, punishable, or socially unacceptable. It can stem from certain childhood traumas, such as being forced to bottle up all the negative emotions. This type of anger can be much more emotionally and physically draining to the one expressing it than the more overt types. It can be expressed by silent treatment, sarcasm, procrastination, or mockery. So when it comes to the passive type of anger, I would fall into that category. I find passive anger is it's a lot more common, especially with my people, with Asians in general. I think it's just because of how we're raised, especially when it comes to our parents, where it probably started from. We weren't allowed to kind of express our emotions because, express our emotions to our parents because, even if we're right, they are our parents. You know, they put food on the table, they put clothes on our backs. We can't complain to them. They'll be like, it's more of an ego hit, I think, for them. That's what I see it as. Like they see this little runt just sort of tell them off, and they're like, I'm not having that. I pay the bills, I work hard. I'm not having you telling me off for anything. So thereafter they attack back, kind of. And then they kind of try and silence you, and then they tell you whatever that it is, whatever they need to stop you. So now you're just thinking, all right, maybe it's not good to be angry. And like it says here, where is it? That it's wrong, punishable, or socially unacceptable. The wrong and punishable part are probably the two things that I would have been hit with as a kid. The punishable part especially. So if I would get angry to one of my parents, they'd punish me in some ways, like, oh, you can't get angry at me, and then, send me to my room, or, get a light smack or something, or just get my PlayStation or something taken away. I have no idea. There are multitudes of things that they could do. But whatever it was, I always associated anger with some sort of punishment coming. That obviously, when you attach the punishment to it, you obviously inherently start thinking that it's wrong. So then you keep bottling it up. And then I find it even more funny when your parents don't know why you act in a certain way, and then why you can't be more open with them. It's like and then I'm like, you realize that you're the one that kind of molded me to this. So you can't be too surprised with me. It's not until very recently that I sort of kind of get rid of my passiveness with anger, and now I just sort of I don't say on what's on my mind all the time, because there are some etiquettes that I do have left. Don't worry, but I do set firm boundaries at least. So I don't, people know what to expect with me, which I think is good. So when you're open and honest, you do all right. You don't find much trouble. And if people overstep those boundaries with you, then you have to sort of end it, especially during work. Obviously, sometimes you have to just continue working with certain individuals, but you can obviously make your intentions clear. I think there was one situation where where me and this other person didn't get along, and I just said, look, let's just do our job. I don't really want to mix with you, because every time we do, it just ends horribly. You want to get paid, I want to get paid, and then we want to go home. So that's what we did. So after airing it, funnily enough, it got better because now everybody knows where everybody stands. So it could help out. Obviously, don't go tell that to your manager. I never did, thankfully. But yeah, with colleagues, people on the same level as you, it would work out. So the next type is volatile or sudden, I should say. This type of anger comes out of nowhere. It's an impulsive reaction to whatever is perceived even the tiniest bit annoying. Since it's so unpredictable, it can eventually force everyone around such person to walk on eggshells or avoid the person altogether. Rightly so, as this sort of manifestation of rage can be very destructive emotionally and physically. Thinking about this one, just this and another type, which I'm going to talk about, I think it's going to be like the fourth one. Yeah. I see no benefit into this one. You're completely run by emotions at this point. There is no way of sort of channeling it into something more productive. I knew a person very much like this, and he was family, and we had to deal with him. He was family. There was nowhere else for him to go. Either way, as I got older, I put up with it less and less. Obviously, so when you're a kid, you obviously take a little bit more because you don't know generally. So yeah, all the time. So the funny thing is, as he's gotten older, he's in his like latter years now. He's one of the things he regrets the most is not having a hold on his anger, especially when it came to his work. He really does regret that, and I think a lot of money was lost just simply because of how he would just fly off the handle. Because like whatever he was hit with, he would deal with it in the extremes. So there was no middle ground. There was no way of him pulling back. He would just be all the way at 100, and then everything would go wrong. So in his later years, he has become more passive though. So I don't think he's just gone. I just think he's just channeled his anger in a different way, simply because he can't get that volatile and sudden. He's not as young as he was. He can't. If something were to go wrong, like in a physical altercation, he can't back himself. Like he's not as quick as he was to dodge the punches that would come his way if he was to get in a physical altercation. So yeah, if you have like volatile or sudden anger like this is the type of anger I would strongly recommend you try and like sort out. This is out of all of these ones, I think this one might cause the most harm. Like there are other ones where it just causes you harm, but when you start causing other people harm or just make other people wary of you, you've pretty much like screwed yourself over completely. Like, because if nobody, here's the thing, I see it as like play, kind of. If nobody wants to play with you, then you're essentially not going to go very far in life. And yeah, your wealth technically gets made through other people. So you need to be able to play well with other people. And this and the fourth one, which I'm going to talk about, the next one's called deliberate anger. I'm going to talk, and then after that's behavioral. So when we get to behavioral, you can understand why that one and volatile and sudden are very closely connected. But yeah, if you got volatile and sudden, do whatever you need to do to get that one under control as fast as possible. Right, number 3, deliberate anger. Out of the 8 types that I found, 2 of them were good, as in they were positives, and this is one of them. This is used as a technique by managers, coaches, leaders, activists, and other people whose interest is to hype up, motivate, and prepare their teams or audience for battle, a game, a protest, or a personal transformation. So think of Trump and his followers, I would imagine, how he manages to hype them up, sometimes with indignation of some kind, like they've been wronged, and that anger propels them forward. To be fair, it's a very clever tactic, and it worked, so I can't really say anything about it to him, I mean. But it was very smart. This can be linked to like the self-improvement side of it, if anything. Like if you're afraid to do something, but you've been burned badly by it before because you didn't know what to do, it will give you a way. Well, not give you a way. It will make you improve yourself. Like despite how bad it is to train in it, you'll push through and get it done. So something along those lines. Anyway, I explained it fully in the previous point on the self-improvement point. So I'm not going to go too much into it now. Right, point number 4, behavioral. Like I said, this has connection to point number 2, volatile and sudden. So let's have a look at it. This type of anger manifests in a very straightforward way, physically. An enraged person can physically attack someone or start smashing and breaking inanimate objects. Such a person tends to act first and think later. The emotion can be very overwhelming and vanish as suddenly as it appeared. Right. So the person I was talking about in point 2 also has this. And just seeing it, I feel like it was his way of kind of releasing the tension that was inside him. Because I think it would have done him more harm. And nobody ever taught that person, my family member, to express it in any other way. Like he could have gone to the gym, or he could have just done, some push-ups and pull-ups or something else. He could have done a number of things just to exert that anger instead of smashing through things or getting physical with other people. Yeah. And it just looks so bad in the sense that you just look like a 5-year-old throwing a temper tantrum. But yeah. But if you ever get seen showing that kind of anger, the volatile and sudden, obviously it might, depending on the situation, you might experience it. Like if it's a very high stressful situation, then yes. But then the behavioral one, usually that means that you're just going to that type of anger every time something wrong happens. So I don't know. Yeah. Volatile and sudden and behavioral, those two I hate the most simply because I've experienced those two and I know how bad it is. And the people that think that it's cool, I know that some people see it and it's like, oh wow, that guy's very masculine or whatever. It's not. It's very childish. There are better ways of expressing your anger, more disciplined, more stoic ways. So I don't know. I might actually try and look for ways on how to release your anger a little bit better, and hopefully that might help people. But that's a video for a different day. All right, point number 5: self-abusive type of anger. This type is one driven by covert shame, guilt, and low self-esteem in general. It can be expressed indirectly by negative self-talk, substance abuse, physical self-harm, and disorderly eating patterns. It can also manifest in rage outbursts towards others, which only deepens the feeling of loneliness, alienation, and guilt. Now, I have some, maybe 1 or 2 instances about having outbursts towards others. But I got that in check very early on, because obviously, that just alienates you from everybody else, causes you loneliness, as it said on the research. Other than that, I don't know anybody else, actually. I mean, all the people I know, even though, no. Actually, I've heard of people who have who've had this type of anger, but it's mainly I would say celebrities, with the drug patterns, disorderly eating, and stuff like that. I don't know anybody that has this in my personal life, so I can't really say too much on it, other than that is one type of anger and you should be aware of it. So point number 6 is chronic. This type indicates the long-lasting and unresolved emotional issues. These manifest themselves indirectly by constant frustration and resentment towards others, and often towards oneself. This type of person is likely to be described as bitter, mean, or spiteful. It can seriously affect a person's mental and emotional and physical health. The longer this type of anger is accumulated, the deeper roots it has. So, long-form psychotherapy that focuses on childhood and adolescence might be useful. Loving kindness meditation, gratitude journaling. Those are also ways of sort of undoing what's there about the chronic anger. In terms of someone being this way, yes, there was. I don't think I can go into too much detail, otherwise I think people who I know who watch this video would know who I'm talking about, unfortunately. This person I knew had it wasn't a bad upbringing. They were wealthy. It's just that they didn't get the right attention from their parents because they split up, and the mom took the kid and didn't give any didn't let the father have any time with him. So obviously there was some sort of disconnect there. And when that person saw other people having good relationships with their father or one of the other parents, it didn't go down well. That I do know. And being near such a person is just so draining on you, because you're like, if they're going to be like this to somebody else, like, and this is somebody they know as well, what are they going to be like to me? It's like a constant battle. You're always on guard, and you can never just like relax. And I know what other people say, you always got to be on guard anyway. And I'm like, oh, come on, I can't be bothered. I'm going to relax, and whatever happens, happens. At one point, I stopped like giving them any attention. And funnily enough, that removal of attention ended up having them behave quite well towards me. So I didn't have much of a problem with them afterwards, because I was so uninterested at one point. And I just kept that up with them, to be quite honest, because I wasn't going to be drained by, lack of a better word, is like dumb shit. I'm not going to be drained by dumb shit any longer. I just can't be bothered. I'm too old for this. So, yeah, this is essentially, I saw it like as high school behavior. But yeah, if you do have this, go to therapy, obviously. And if you're dealing with someone who has this, especially the ones that are being bitter and mean or spiteful to somebody else, just don't give them any attention. Just keep them moving. Like every time, it's sort of like the term, the saying, water off a duck's back. Every time they try anything, you just like pass it off. It's like, yeah, all right, cool, and you just keep it moving, and that will infuriate them that they are not the center of your world, essentially, because they want this. They want that attention from somewhere, I would imagine. So, right, point number 7. Addictive and habitual. This type of anger closely connected to be adrenaline and dopamine rushes that a person experiences when enraged. This is a sort of natural high that can become emotionally and physically addictive. Also, the powerful stance over others also chips in the need to repeat the scheme of communication. Just like with most addictions, they grow from habits and eventually take over the wheel of control. Such communication patterns can usually be seen in other members of the family, so it could have been learned at home. A person may not see it as a problem, not even when others around them tell them that it is. It can be very problematic to convince such a person to change the very behavior that they know is making them feel good. Family interventions, meditations, anger management courses could help the situation for that person. Do I know someone like this? Not really. I think everybody's done this to some varying degree or another. I think I've done this too. But thankfully it hasn't taken over. And I don't think I know anybody else that is taken over as well. Maybe, yeah, actually, you know what? The previous person I was talking about in point number 6, they sometimes resort to this a lot more than I've seen anybody else resort to it. So that could be a point. But yeah, again, you're just no fun to be around that way. Oh, one of the this is like a comeuppance, if anything. That person I was talking about in the previous one, for chronic, essentially they were arguing with somebody else, another individual. He was my friend, and he is still my friend. He had more experience on a topic, on doing this activity or whatever. I think it was like for work or some hobby. I can't really remember. He had more experience on it. He tried telling them, look, this is how it's done. This is what's going to happen. And they would not accept it. They would only accept their way every time. And they shouted my friend down. At one point, he was like, screw it, keep it. Do what you want. And let's just say that individual got humbled badly, right? Until they had to come back to my friend and then just kind of smooth things over, apologize and stuff, and then ask for help. There was no other way to do it. And that was the one time I saw them. I think they changed a little bit after that, but it was a severe humbling that I just saw. So I suppose like it said in the point, it feels good. So if there's a situation where you end up feeling bad, then obviously it'll cause you to change, to recorrect yourself, so you never feel that bad again. Sort of on the self-improvement side, I suppose. But yeah, seeing that, I shouldn't say this, but seeing that person like get humbled like that after talking so much trash was good. Right, here's the final point: moral slash judgmental. Point number 8. It manifests as righteous indignation at someone else's actions that are perceived as unjust, wrong, or incorrect. These people see themselves as natural moral compasses, and they just can't look the other way when something not according to their values is happening in front of their eyes. This is not necessarily a destructive type of anger, as it can be channeled and focused on making a greater change. However, such a person is a sort of, they get alienated quite easily, shall we say. This type of anger can also be a feature of certain personality types and a characteristic of Asperger's syndrome. Didn't know if I was going to put that last button in because I didn't know how true that was, but I just threw it in there just in case. Tried looking more into the Asperger's syndrome part of it, but couldn't find anything more. So take that part with a grain of salt, I should say. Let's see. I think this one is quite good. I think this one's quite good in the sense that it keeps everybody in check, sort of like keeping everybody within the rules, which I don't think is a bad thing. Like, obviously, if someone's abusing the rules and hurting other people, then obviously change the rules when necessary. But yeah, this is the second point of all these types, which I think are good types of anger. Right. I hope you enjoy the video. I'm going to try and be as consistent as possible, and ideally there's no real format for what I'm going to be talking about in any of the upcoming videos. It's just whatever takes my fancy, I'll just put out. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, oh well, kind of just did this for fun anyway. So yeah, hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.